Inclusive education. Today we are discussing about institutional autonomy and student choices. Okay, so these two things in with respect to the recommendations related to National Education Policy 2020. So I would like to begin. I will be sharing the screen. Yeah, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am, it's visible, but not in full screen, ma'am.
Full screen, it's not visible?
No, ma'am, not in a full screen, ma'am.
Okay, one second. Now?
Yes, ma'am. No, okay.
Okay. So the topic for today in relation to NEP 2020 is autonomy to the institutions, that is institutional autonomy, and choice to the students. Okay, so what NEP speaks about giving autonomy to especially the higher education institutions, and what is the flexibility of curriculum and examination choices and given to the students. Okay, so in relation to this, now we all know, I would like to begin with the statement, and whatever we discuss about NEP is always in relation to the aspiration of NEP, that is making India a global knowledge superpower. So before beginning with the topic, I would like to just put across an anecdote where I would like you all to imagine a situation where maybe if you have two brothers or sisters, if suppose they offer to you to buy or purchase a dress for you, okay, and then there are two brothers. One brother asks, let us name brother A and brother B. Okay. Now brother A gives you an option of purchasing a dress, but he doesn't give you a choice. He puts certain conditions saying that the choice will be his, and the decision about the cost, the color of the dress, everything will be his choice. Okay, that is brother A. Now you have another brother B who is giving you a choice and saying that there are no conditions put and the choice is yours. The color of the this thing dress, the cost of the dress, it's your choice. Okay, now my question here is, with whom would you go to buy the dress, whether it's A who puts the conditions or whether it will be B who gives you the freedom of choice to select or pick or decide which dress you want to purchase? Whom would you choose, B or A?
B,
One
madam.
of you could just unmute and answer.
B.
You would be choosing B, is it?
Yes, madam.
If so, why? Why B?
Our
Why not A?
choice, no restrictions.
Okay, he doesn't have any conditions. There are no restrictions. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Any other reason? Okay. Now we come to the second part of this situation. He has not put any conditions, but though he has given you the freedom, will you put conditions for yourself? Will you not ask, like, whether when you are choosing what is the occasion for, and for that particular occasion, what is the cost of the dress which you can afford to, or your brother can afford to spend, or maybe you will, because he is purchasing it for you, maybe even you will think of his choice of color also. Okay, will you not put any restrictions on yourself for purchasing? We do. Yes, even if somebody doesn't put any restrictions, gives us the freedom of choice, but we ourselves take the responsibility of meeting certain criteria. In this situation, maybe we will think of what is the cost which the brother who is offering can afford, and what is the occasion, if it is a small occasion, or if it is a very big occasion where we can spend a lot of money. Okay, so we put conditions. So this is where we always draw our own boundaries in spite of getting freedom from others. Okay, this is what a responsible person will do. So any teacher or an education system for that matter, or an educational institution for that matter, is in a responsible position in the society. Though somebody gives us the freedom, or that is what we specifically call this freedom of choice, freedom of selection, freedom of decision, as autonomy. Okay, though the institution or the faculty or the teachers are given autonomy, this autonomy is closely associated with accountability. The accountability is making a responsible decision. Okay, though it is our choice, though it's our selection, though it's our pick, our decision, we make a responsible decision because we are accountable to the decision we make. Okay, so autonomy is always closely associated with accountability. Now, this is where NEP speaks about autonomy to be given to higher educational institutions, especially. Okay, and even research has shown that autonomy enhances performance. Okay, just think of ourselves. If we are working in a very restricted environment where we have to follow a lot of regulations, where we are constantly monitored by others, and there is another situation where freedom is given to us as teachers, freedom is given to us to choose the technology we want to use while teaching, freedom is given to us to select particular strategy of teaching, for a particular content. So the teachers who teach in this autonomous environment will perform better than compared to teachers who will work in a very restricted, regulated environment or a monitored environment. So, with this introduction, I would like to straight away go to the topic, that is autonomy. Okay. So, before moving into the autonomy, let us just look over the ranking given to the Indian higher education institutions. Looking at the 2023 edition of the QS World Ranking, uh, there were only three of India's higher education institutions among the top 200 of the world. Imagine, for our population, for our number of higher education institutions, there were only three institutions, not in the top 100, but in the top 200 of the world. Okay. And another three came in when we took the top 300. And when we took another 400, again, two of the institutions were named. Now, looking at the Times Higher Education ranking, there was only one institute of national excellence, that is IIT, which came among the top 400 of the world. And our esteemed institution, which we are very proud of, that is the Indian Institute of Science, was ranked 155th globally. Okay, this is what our higher education institutions are standing when we take the global ranking. So none of the Indian institutions of higher education have appeared in the list of top 100 universities of the world. Don't you think this is something for us to really worry upon? Because we boast ourselves of having achieved so much in higher education, and then we are moving towards universalization of secondary education. We are moving 100% literacy, and we are speaking about the increase in gross enrollment ratio in higher education institutions. Speaking about all this situation about the quality of higher education is very much to be worried about. So, what are the major problems of this higher education system in India? I would specifically, there are many problems listed out with when NEP began, but here I am concentrating only on those three which I have put on bold here. One thing is, the first problem which they list here is a rigid separation of the disciplines. We have the science discipline, we have the arts discipline, we have the performing arts discipline, we have the social science discipline, we have the mathematics discipline. We have a rigid separation of the disciplines, and there is a very early specialization and streaming of students into a very narrow area of study. So this is one thing which they list in NEP. Then the other thing which I would like to concentrate here is the limited autonomy given to the teacher as well as the higher education institutions. Just think of a degree college or undergraduate college, how much of autonomy is given to it, an affiliated college to any, because every college, I can either be a constituent college of the university, or it can be an affiliated college to a university. You know how much of regulations they have to follow regarding the curriculum. They do not have any freedom of deciding what curriculum they will be adopting. They will not have freedom of deciding upon their examination or the grading system. Everything is decided by a university to which it is affiliated to. So this is another thing which is the area of concern, that is limited teacher autonomy and institutional autonomy. The other one which it lists, I'm not going through the everything listed here, I am specifically listing some, only two or three. And the other one is which we have to show concern about is a large affiliating universities resulting in low standards of undergraduate education. Universities have a large number of affiliated colleges which they have to monitor to, and this is resulting, because there are so many colleges, that is resulting in low standards. So these are the three things which I would like you to focus upon today. That is what Indian universities, we know, are funded by UGC, and universities are also subject to a very strict regulatory regime. Now we will just look into the regulatory, because we are saying that we are regulated. Then what is the regulatory framework of higher education in India? There are three concepts or three dimensions of a regulatory framework which I would like to touch upon. One is related to policy making, the second dimension related to the regulation or the regulatory bodies, and the third related to accreditation. Okay. Now, regarding the dimension of policy making, we have the Department of Higher Education, which comes under the MHRD. We have the Association of Indian Universities. We have the CABE, that is the Central Advisory Board of Education. We have the state councils for higher education, which are involved in policy making. Coming to the regulation and monitoring, we have the University Grants Commission. We have other professional bodies which are established as a parliamentary act. We have the AICTE, we have the MCI, we have the DEC, we have the NCTE, and also we have ICAR, ICMR, ICSSR, and CSIR, and also we have state regulators. Coming to the accreditation, we have two bodies, that is NAC, that is National Assessment and Accreditation Council, and also the National Board of Accreditation, that is NBA. Okay, so this is the regulatory framework of higher education in India at present. Then why are the other universities, means institutions other than IITs and institution of national importance, other than this, why are the other institutions not coming up or reaching up to the level of performance? One important, IITs and INIs have more autonomy when compared to our regular colleges who are affiliated to universities. This IITs, they first of all receive better funds, but they are self-governed. They have a greater degree of autonomy. as because they fall outside this regulatory purview of these regulatory bodies. Okay, so institutions which are funded by UGC are subject to a very strict regulatory regime. And speaking about this micromanagement of the university functioning, they have to abide by the UGC regulations because they encompass almost all aspects of the functioning of the institution, like faculty recruitment, because even the faculty recruitment has to follow the regulations given by UGC, related to student admission, related to award of degrees, related to conduct of examination. Name any aspect of functioning of an institution, we have to follow the regulations given by UGC. Okay. So there are very less autonomy given to the UGC affiliated universities and colleges. So rarely we are given a chance of asserting the autonomy. Okay. And one more thing which is worrisome here is all of us working in these institutions are very comfortable with this regulatory practice. We rarely assert the autonomy given to us as teachers or as higher education institutions. Now, research has shown that very poor fund allocation in or low level of PhD enrollments or research work, and very few opportunities for interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary research or interdisciplinary multidisciplinary education is one reason again for the poor performance. Okay. Now, looking at the global practice, the European University Association, it prescribes a university autonomy tool. Okay. This lets each member university to compare its level of autonomy with the other European higher education systems across the member countries. Okay. So coming to what we mean by institutional autonomy, we will briefly touch upon autonomy first, then move on to institutional autonomy. Autonomy, it provides, the first thing is quality education. Then it satisfies the needs and expectations of the stakeholders. The stakeholders can be the community, it can be the parents, it can be the students. And autonomy is the power to make our own decisions so that we can achieve the institution's visions, missions, and goals. So whatever decision we make, though autonomy is given, is in line with the institution's vision, mission, and the goals. And it harnesses the potential of both the internal and the external stakeholders for implementing the decisions. Now, trying to operationally define this institutional autonomy, according to this NEP, institutional autonomy is the authority or the freedom given to make decisions in certain areas of functioning of the higher education institutions. What are these areas? One is academia, the other administration, finance, governance, and management of the institute. Okay, so these are the different areas for which this autonomy is given or operationally defined. Now, in the beginning itself, I told you autonomy is very closely associated with accountability. Once autonomy is accepted by an educational institute, then it is the responsibility of the institute to be accountable. NEP speaks about another term, not just autonomy, it speaks about another term called the graded autonomy. Now, what do we mean by this graded autonomy? It provides phasing out of the system of affiliated colleges which we have now, and means slowly these affiliated colleges will be phased out, and greater autonomy in academia and administrative and financial matters to be given to premium colleges. Now, in NEP 2020, certain centralized features of autonomy have been spoken about. This centralization is indicative in the constitution of the government, which nominates an umbrella institutions called the Higher Education Council of India, the Board of Governors, the National Education Commission, etc. Now, what are the concerns of autonomy? Means if autonomy, not that autonomy has only positive effects. Sometimes autonomy can have certain limitations too. So, what are these aspects of concern when one's autonomy is given to a higher education institution? The first concern is the model of the graded autonomy. This will encourage hierarchy among the higher education institutions. This hierarchy that exists between the different colleges within a public funded university and between different universities across the country also may lead to a concern among these higher education institutions. Now, the best colleges can gain autonomy. They can get their own rules and regulations, and other affiliated colleges may face the threat of merger or sometimes even closure also. This may push out the marginalized sections of the population. Last time we were speaking about the SEDGs, the socioeconomically disadvantaged group. So these marginalized sections may be pushed out because this may lead to higher privatization and lesser public funding when it comes to higher education institutions because of autonomy given to the colleges. This autonomy may also lead to more inaccessibility. Okay, and graded autonomy can trigger a massive spurt in expensive self-finances courses, as premium colleges may offer these expensive courses, and this may lead to exclusion. NEP somewhere speaks about inclusion, which we discussed in 2 days back, but this autonomy, when is brought in, may cause exclusion also. So transforming this regulatory system of higher education, looking into this para or section of 18.1, it speaks about regulation of higher education. This is the same wordings taken from the NEP. Regulation of higher education has been too heavy-handed for decades. Too much has been attempted to be regulated with too little effect. That is what it observes. Means it says too much has been attempted to be regulated, but the effect of this regulation is very less. So this mechanistic and disempowering nature of the regulatory system has been rife with very basic problems, where the problems are related to heavy concentration of power, where the power is concentrated only with limited bodies, then conflict of interest among these bodies, and also lack of accountability. So that is why NEP says that this regulatory system needs a complete re-energization of the higher education sector. Now, when it speaks about autonomy, NEP speaks about three areas of autonomy, that is academia and administrative autonomy, then teacher and institutional autonomy. Faculty and institutional autonomy is to be given through highly independent and empowered board of management. Okay? And it also speaks about light but tight regulatory framework. These two words are conflicting but are complementary. That is how these two words are used. Means it says the regulatory framework need not be very strict. It have to be light, but being light, it has to be tight. Okay, so this insists on this light but tight regulatory framework, which speaks about new regulatory regime which could foster a culture of empowerment of the institutions as well as the faculty. So the system of affiliated colleges, NEP says, will be gradually phased out over a period of 15 years through a system of graded autonomy. Now, what are the recent initiatives taken up by the government in order to provide or this implement this recommendations of NEP. The first thing is graded autonomy to university and colleges, and this national institutional ranking framework, then All India Survey on Higher Education, then education quality upgradation and inclusion program, that is EQUIP, then a curriculum framework which is based on the learning outcomes. Now, most of the times nowadays, when we are speaking about the curriculum frameworks, we always are speaking about learning outcome based curriculum. And also, another initiative is revitalizing the infrastructure and systems in the education. That is what we abbreviate as RISE. Now, NEP speaks about the board of governors. Okay, so this board shall be responsible and accountable to the stakeholders through transparent self-disclosure of all relevant records. And it will be responsible for meeting the regulatory guidelines which is mandated by the Higher Education Council of India, that is HECI, through the National Higher Education Regulatory Council, that is NHERC. Now, in the section 19.5, it states that while being provided with adequate funding, legislative enablement and autonomy in a phased manner, all the higher education institutions will display commitment to institutional excellence. Though autonomy is given, they have to display commitment to institutional excellence, engagement with National Education Policy 2020, then local communities, and highest standards of financial probity and accountability. And each institution, it's mandatory for it to make an institutional development plan. This is what NEP speaks about, to constitute or a strategic institutional development plan to be framed, on the basis of which institutions will develop initiatives, assess their own progress, and reach the goals set therein. Okay. So this institutional development plan is one, again, an important recommendation of NEP. Moving over, it always again speaks about academic bank of credits. So it says this bank, the academic bank of credits, is to be established to facilitate transfer of credits. We know now we are moving over to the CBCS, that is choice based credit system. So it is the banking of the credits. Then multidisciplinary education and research in universities, called the MERUs, at par with IITs and IIMs, are to be set up as models of best multidisciplinary education of global standards. So these MERUs which are to be set up are multidisciplinary education institutes which will be on par with global standards. Then it also speaks about formation of the National Research Foundation, which will be an apex body for fostering the strong research culture and to build the research competencies among aspirants of higher education. Speaking about Higher Education Commission of India, this is a single umbrella body for the entire higher education. It only excludes medical as well as legal education, but all other education will come under this Higher Education Commission. All public and private higher education institutes will be governed by some set of norms or regulations, accreditation and academic standards. Okay? And this has 4 independent verticals. The first being the National Higher Education Regulatory Council for regulation. Then for standard setting, we have the General Education Council. For funding, we have the Higher Education Grants Council. For accreditation, we have the National Accreditation Council. So 4 councils under the Higher Education Commission of India would be set up. And as I told you before, affiliation of colleges will be phased out in 15 years. So a stage-wise mechanism is to be established to grant graded autonomy to the colleges. Okay. Now, this policy includes key changes, that is moving towards faculty and institutional autonomy, then revamping the curriculum, pedagogy, assessment, and student support for to enhance student experience, then governance of higher education institutions by highly qualified independent boards having academic and administrative autonomy. So this institution autonomy argues that the institution will undertake stipulated work properly if they have freedom of action. But this work should be done with the sense of responsibility and accountability. That is autonomous institutions will have to work with the sense of responsibility and accountability in public interest. Now, quoting what Thomas Zah says, he says, autonomy is the freedom to develop oneself, freedom to develop oneself, to increase one's knowledge, to improve one's skills, and achieve responsibility for one's conduct. And it is the freedom to lead one's own life, to choose among alternative courses of action. Okay. So, higher education institutions must focus on achieving this autonomy. Trying to define institutional autonomy, I would like to take the definition given by UNESCO, which defines it as a degree of self-governance which is necessary for effective decision making by institutions of higher education regarding their academic work standards, management, and related activities. European University Association addresses 4 dimensions of autonomy, that is organizational autonomy, financial autonomy, staffing autonomy, and academic autonomy. These are also adopted are spoken about even in the National Education Policy too. There are currently 6 organizations like the UGC, the NAC, the AICTE, the NBA, the MHRD, and other central and state universities that are autonomy of colleges, having their own rules and regulations. Okay, but these regulators have admitted that most colleges do not have enough autonomy to make their own decisions. Okay, and the government's interference slows down the speed of progress in higher education. So this is where why we are lacking in quality improvement, and that is why we are having very few autonomous institutions in our country. And not only national education policy, there are many committees which have come before a national education policy which have recommended for autonomy to higher education institutions. One such committee called the Yashpal Committee. This also had suggested for giving autonomy to higher education institutions. These recommendations showed that the project of giving autonomy could succeed fully only if the central and state governments will work hand in hand with cooperation by treating education as a national issue. So there should be cooperation between both the central and the state government while giving autonomy to higher education institutions. These higher education institutions also, the institutions have to raise to the occasion urgently. They have to reorient their own system to be vibrant, to be competitive, to be meaningful, to be purposeful in whatever activities or decisions they make. Besides this, there is no substitute for bringing about quality in higher education. So the percentage of successful implementation of these education reforms that is this reform here we are speaking about is bringing about autonomy in higher education institutions, will be possible only with well equipped, motivated, and dedicated higher education teachers. Now, quoting or the para number 19.2, though a suitable system of graded accreditation and graded autonomy, through this, in a phased manner over a period of 15 years, all the higher education institutes in India will aim at becoming independent, self-governing institutions, not being affiliated to any university, but will be independent, self-governing institutions which will be pursuing innovation and excellence. So just imagine what should be the capability of the faculty working in each and every colleges in these institutions. Okay. Then para 19.5, I would like to just quote this para as it is given in NEP. Each institution will make a strategic plan on the basis of which institutions will develop initiatives. I'm concentrating on this line where institutions themselves will develop initiatives. They themselves will assess their own progress. There is nobody who will come and monitor and assess the progress of the institution. Instead, the institutions themselves will assess their own progress and reach the goals set therein, which could then become the basis for further public funding. And knowing the benefits of giving academic freedom that can be obtained by achieving autonomy in higher education institutions, NEP policy encourages institutions to go for autonomy. What NEP 2020 states about college autonomy? The first thing, it aims to transform the current higher education model into a value-based education model. And practically speaking about this transformation, this may take more than several decades to materialize. It cannot be very instantaneous. As soon as the NEP is adopted, it doesn't mean that all the higher education institutions will be given autonomy, but this will happen in a phased manner through several decades. Okay. Now, the government is planning to have three major types of universities. One are research universities. The second is teaching universities. And the third is degree awarding autonomous colleges. Okay. So universities will be of two types. One which will be research oriented. The other which will be focusing on teaching, that is teaching universities. And the third will be degree awarding autonomous colleges. Now, what is the criteria for granting autonomous status to colleges? One thing is, which all of us will know, if we have to be given autonomy, we will have to maintain the quality of education being provided in the higher education institutes. The first criteria is the quality of education. The second criteria they speak about is a very important criteria, and the quality is being reflected in this criteria, that is the academic performance and strength of the college in co-curricular and curricular activities. Okay, so the academic performance of the students, which reflect the quality, or the quality of education most of the times in the institutions are being measured in the academic performance of the students. So the academic performance as well as the co-curricular activities being provided in which the students will engage in the institutions. Then the third thing is the related to the faculty. So what are the achievements of the faculty in terms of research work? Okay, this is one more criteria which will be looked upon. Then the merit of students and quality of the teaching learning process. While teaching learning, what are the technology which will be adopted, how much of e-learning content will be developed by the faculty, okay, what new methods or the constructivist or connectivist methods will be followed. Okay, these are the merits which we will look into when looked upon the quality of teaching learning. Then another aspect or criteria is the infrastructural facilities which will be provided in the college, like the library, the e-resources, the transportation facilities, etc. to the child or the student. Then another area is innovation and research. And very importantly, the financial strength of the college. Okay, the funding the college receives, then the management or the institutional management. So these are the criteria which the college has to work upon if it has to go for autonomy. There are certain challenges which the institutions would face when they seek autonomy. So what are these key or important challenges? First thing is restriction of decision making as per the university regulation. Then operational dependency on universities. So if the institutions have to operate, there is dependency on the university. So these two are the key challenges which would affect the autonomy. But are there any benefits if the college gets an autonomous status? Yes, there are so many benefits which, though there are challenges, there are benefits. The first thing is academic freedom. Academic freedom in terms of selecting or recruiting their own administrative staff and faculty. Freedom in terms of designing their own curriculum. Every college can design their own curriculum in view of the vision and mission of the particular institution or the goals of a particular program which they are offering. So designing of the curriculum, they will have freedom. Then deciding upon the college admission process and the fee. Independent teaching learning framework, so they can have their own framework for teaching and learning. The colleges can have their own examination pattern, evaluation and judgment parameters of their own they can have, and they can have their own choice of the grading system for every program they offer. Then the degree awarded to the students will be by the college themselves. So the college will be awarding the degree to the students. They can plan the best practices for the institutions. Now, most of you, if you have gone for NAC accreditation, you know how much of weightage is given to the best practices adopted by institution. Okay, so planning these best practices for the institution. These are the benefits of autonomous college status. Then having this freedom, we know research also has proved will ensure success in the performance, and everything depends upon how the colleges will utilize the academic freedom given to them in action or in their decisions. Now, quoting again this para 12.2 of the NEP 2020, institutions and faculty will have autonomy to innovate. Innovate on what aspects? Innovate on matters of curriculum, pedagogy, and assessment within a broad framework of the higher education qualifications. NEP also states that over a period of time, it envisages that every college would develop into either an autonomous degree granting college or a constituent college of a university. So any college that exists will be either an autonomous degree granting college or it will be a constituent college of a university. Okay, where if it is a constituent college, it will fully be a part of a university. NEP also states that an autonomous degree granting college would be referred to as a large multidisciplinary institution of higher learning that grants undergraduate degrees, and it will primarily focus on undergraduate courses. NEP also states that a stage-wise mechanism, because we speak about graded autonomy, so speaks about adopting a stage-wise mechanism to grant this graded autonomy to colleges, which will be established through a transparent system of graded accreditation. All the colleges will be encouraged, they will also be mentored and supported and also incentivized. Means if they go for autonomy, they will have to achieve or attain certain minimum benchmarks. So all these institutions, if they have to achieve this minimum benchmarks required for accreditation or any ranking level, colleges will be mentored and supported for them. They will also be given incentives in the beginning. So with appropriate ranking or accreditation, autonomous degree colleges could also evolve later on into research intensive or teaching intensive universities. Means any college, once has an appropriate ranking or accreditation and is given autonomous, they can evolve into a university, either into a research intensive university or into a teaching intensive university if they aspire to. Okay. So what happens if they achieve a suitable ranking? Then okay, I think we will have to also go for choice based. So I'll be a little fast here. So there are certain pathways towards autonomy in colleges. It's not just autonomy, sustaining autonomy. We spoke about these regulatory bodies, that is HECI, we have National Higher Education Regulatory Council, we have National Accreditation Council, which will be established, Higher Education Grants Council, General Education Council. And the second way of achieving sustainable autonomy is to evolve framework for granting a varying degree of autonomy. Then use of certain common terminologies like institute, program, curriculum, courses, credits, certifications. Then it also speaks about multiple entry, multiple exit system. That is MIMI system. That is what it's called. That is a multiple entry, multiple exit system. So that we will have a flexible education system. Then various guidelines would be evolved for functioning of an institute, and the guidelines will be related to autonomy will be given in regard to admission, curriculum development, curriculum implementation, industrial training and internship, guidance and counseling, mentoring and coaching, entrepreneurship, training and placement, then also related to online learning, examination reforms, and also student grievance management. Then this is one thing called the institutional development plan, which we spoke about before. So a top-down or bottom-up approach and a blueprint to be prepared, which will be in perfect alignment with the institutional development plan. Now moving over to the choice-based credit system. Okay. This choice-based credit system, which has already been followed or practiced, will be revised for instilling innovation and flexibility. Okay. So this CBCS, or the choice-based credit system, will be offering higher choice to the students. In 12.9, it is mentioned that students are the prime stakeholders in the education system. So a vibrant campus life for the student is very much essential for high quality teaching learning process. Just imagine what could be a vibrant campus. If you have to make your higher education institution a vibrant campus for the student, what are the criteria which you will have to meet? Okay. So towards this end, the students have to be given a plenty of opportunities for participation in sports, in culture arts clubs, in eco clubs, in activity clubs, in community service projects, etc. Okay, so all these activities or opportunities to be given to the student in the campus. And this choice-based credit system will enable the students for interdisciplinary education. This is what is the focus of national education policy, that is interdisciplinary and multidisciplinary education, so that they will learn the subjects they like. Okay, so there is no certain hard and fast boundaries established between the disciplines or streams, and there will not be any compulsion of learning only specific subjects or courses. So rather than evaluating the academic student performance through marks and percentages, the CBCS system is using the credits. This credits will also take into consideration the number of hours spent, the number of competencies developed by the student, and all this. If you just go in detail with this credit system and how evaluation will be done in the credit system, how grading is done in the credit system, so we will know. It is detailedly given in NEP. I will not go in detail about it, but even the number of self-study hours taken by the student, the number of hours spent in the classroom, all this will be considered to give the for the evaluation of the student. This NEP highlights the importance of flexible learning. It says imaginative and flexible curricular structures will enable creative combination of the disciplines. Okay, combination of disciplines for study, and it would offer multiple entry and exit points, and this will remove the current rigid boundaries that exist between the disciplines of study. So this would create a new possibility for students to choose and learn the subjects of their choice. So students are can choose their subject. They can also change the educational institutes as per their preference, convenience, or necessity. Okay. So NEP also helps to achieve universal participation in educational institutions, because it carefully it will track the students, it will track the learning levels of the students, and will ensure that all of them are enrolled in and are attending educational institutes, and they will have suitable opportunities to catch up, and even if they are drop out, they can re-enter the educational institutions in case they fall behind or in case they drop out also. Now this choice-based credit system, the requirement for awarding a degree or diploma or a certificate, it is prescribed in terms of the number of credits earned by the student. I will not go here. So this CBCS, according to NEP, also is concentrating on multidisciplinary and holistic education. What is this multidisciplinary study? Even at the secondary education stage, emphasis is given for empowering students, because empowerment through flexibility in the course choice, so that learners could choose their learning trajectories and programs, means they can choose the path of their learning according to the talent and their own interests. So this credit framework will have a broad-based multidisciplinary holistic education with flexible curriculum and creative combination of the subjects which the students can choose. It will also integrate vocational education and training or skilling, and earlier as we spoke about multiple entry and exit. There is another thing important proposed here in NEP, that is academic bank of credit. This could digitally store the academic credits earned by earned by the student from recognized institutions, so that degrees can be awarded taking into the credits they earn. Now there is another thing spoken about in NEP, that is the National Credit Framework. So this is the credit framework which they have spoken about, and this has been jointly developed by UGC, AICTE, NVCVT, and NEOS, CBSE, NCRT, Ministry of Education, and such bodies. This National Credit Framework is a comprehensive framework. It encompasses all the levels of the education system, that is elementary, school, higher, vocational education and training, and integrating learning on all dimensions, that is academics, vocational skills, and experiential learning, which is being gained through relevant experience and professional levels acquired. So this national credit framework is a framework to integrate the credits earned through school education, higher education, and vocational and skill education. Okay. So I will not go in detail because of a lack of time. This credit framework gives flexibility for students to choose their career choices. It provides for 5 important aspects here. One thing is creditization of all learning and assignment. Whatever tasks he takes up, whatever time he spends on learning, everything is given credit. Then accumulation of the credit by the student, storage of credit, transfer of credit, and redemption of credit. Okay, all this subject to assessment and removes distinction and establishes academic equivalence between both vocational education and general education. This national credit framework also enables mobility within and between the vocational and general education. It again operationalizes it through academic bank of credits. How is this mobility between vocational and general education acquired? It is through acquisition of credits and storage of credits through the academic bank of credits. Okay. So this national credit framework also enables multi-entry, multiple exit pathways in both general and vocational education. This national credit framework also promotes internationalization of education. How is this internationalization of education provided? By giving equivalence of courses and qualification. Then it enables the provision for credit transfer. This credit transfer encourages international exchange of students and faculty, even with foreign universities. Okay? And another provision given in this national credit framework is the educational acceleration. When we were speaking about inclusive education, we were speaking about children with diverse needs. So children with diverse needs, we spoke about a target group called the talented students or intelligent students or creative students. So these gifted students can utilize this provision of educational acceleration. So gifted students with special learning talents or abilities, as also for recognition of prior learning for workforce, can acquire knowledge and skills informally. Maybe it can be through family inheritance, it can be through work experience, or any traditional or other methods. And this allows them to progress very fast in their own fast speed in formal education and learning ecosystem. This national credit framework also enables entry and re-entry from vocational stream to general education, and also the vice versa in the reverse direction, that is through general education to vocational stream. This framework has been built on the strength of the existing regulation and guidelines. Means it is not exclusive of the guidelines which exist now, but it has the foundation of the existing guidelines and framework of UGC, AICTE, CBSE, NCRT, NIOS, and all that, so that the options of the MIMI, that is the abbreviated form of multiple entry, multiple exit, this are accessible and applicable across higher education, school education, and also vocational education. Okay. Now, this national credit framework recognizes that there is no hard separation between areas of learning. Okay. Arts, earlier we had the separation called the arts and science. We had separation as vocational and academic streams. We had separation in subjects or experiences of students as curricular and extracurricular or co-curricular, okay, for the purpose of assignment of credits and credit levels. So this national curriculum framework recognizes that there is no hard separation between these areas of learning. All these are just areas of learning. Now, in the true spirit of NEP 2020, I told you the credits constitute of the total learning hours. So the total learning hours can be creditized subject to assessment, and this can include what are the total learning hours which we include in the credits. One is the classroom teaching learning hours, the laboratory working hours, the innovation labs, the class projects, the assignments done by the students, the tutorials given by the students, the sports and games or yoga and physical activities, even the performing arts and music, the handicraft work, the social work, the NCC, and this also includes the bagless days, even the hours spent on examination, class tests, quiz and assessment, then vocational education, training and skilling, even the minor and major project works which they take up, the field visits which they take up for skill education, as well as the job training, internship and apprenticeship given to them, then experiential learning, including the relevant experience and professional levels acquired. Okay, all this are given credit for in the national education policy. Okay, so this approach is closing the gap in achievement of learning outcomes because it is shifting the classroom education from to competency and learning outcome based education and learning. So now our concentration is on the learning outcome achieved by the student. Now, what is the benefit of this national credit framework? One thing is removal of this hard, to be brief of whatever this national credit framework is doing, or how it is giving the choice to the student. One thing, it is removing the hard separation. Okay. Then the second, it is giving mobility for the student between and within the general and vocational education and training and skilling. Okay. So these credit points can be used to determine the eligibility for taking admission in various programs. Okay, and this mobility is because of the equivalence that is established between both the general and vocational education. Then this enables provision for lifelong learning because it speaks about multiple entry and exit. The student has options for flexible learning. Flexible learning is important so that he can choose his own learning pathway, leading to award of either certificate, either a degree or a diploma. Because if he leaves the course or a program in between, then he will be awarded a certificate or a diploma instead of a degree. So there are occasions, maybe sometimes, when learners may go for alternative schooling or homeschooling. They can go for online schooling also, because we have the SWAYAM and all that. So we have to give up, sometimes they may have to give up education midway. So these regulators uh, have to define this entry and exit criteria of programs being offered. And this credit transfer mechanism, which will also enable student to enter and exit and again re-enter whenever he wants into the educational ecosystem, either to the general or vocational at any point of time. So due weightages are to be proposed to the work experience he gains and the training which the learner may undertake, even in offline or online mode, subject to the assessment. So speaking about this multiple entry and exit option, this will enable student learners to remove the rigid boundaries and the removal of the hard separation between the areas. Then it offers creative combination of disciplines of study. Then it offers flexibility in the curriculum for students. In addition to giving them specific specializations, it offers flexibility of choice of courses to the students for choosing their own learning trajectories. And every type of learning, whatever type of learning or hours he spends, will be creditized for assessment. Then it enables credit accumulation and transfer. It also validates the non-formal and informal learning, like maybe alternative learning, home-based learning, open or online distance learning, from primary education to the higher education, maybe even to the research degree which he may take. Okay, so this also facilitates encashing the credits earned against a qualification degree when the learner resumes or comes back to her program of study. Then this enables educational acceleration. What is this educational acceleration? It can be in the form of grade skipping or class, means skipping of a grade. Then early entrance to school or college, or sometimes even specifically subject-based acceleration. So within this broad rules, this national curriculum credit framework envisions to be a competency framework, and it establishes a process of formal education and certification so that it will provide the gifted learners with exceptional learning abilities and capabilities or competencies to move up the education ladder. Okay, uh, through the prescribed established formal education. And however, sometimes specialized assessment methods are required. If we have to give him this acceleration, they speak about specialized assessment methods, which will have to be very strict, which will have to be very objective, okay, and which will have to adhere to very high standards to keep the credibility of this national credit framework intact. And speaking about academic banking of the credits, this academic banking of credits is a very adaptive and flexible credit system. So this flexibility again gives the choice to the student. It's a very virtual or a digital storehouse. We know what is a bank. A bank is a storehouse. So this academic bank of credits is a digital storehouse, and it is a centralized repository housing the comprehensive credit records of individual student as he progresses in his educational journey. This ABC empowers students to access their accounts seamlessly wherever they are. This is like sometime called every time, anytime learning and storage of or banking of the credits. It offers a plethora of choices when it comes to transitioning between even different colleges or universities. So it gives choice of mobility between colleges and universities to the student. And it also gives credit storage and redemption through this academic bank credit, that is credit transfer. Then accumulation and storage of credits, and redemption of the accumulated credits. As they go on accumulating the credits, whenever they want, they can redeem them. Okay, so this ABC will promote equity, equality, flexibility, mobility, collaboration, transparency, and integration, so that it will improve the competitiveness and efficiency of the Indian education system. Okay, so this ABC will give services like credit accumulation, credit transfer, credit redemption through opening, closure, and validation of accounts, and will also enable multiple entry and multiple exit options in any educational program. And this will also, students can pursue as freelancers in open homeline and online education schooling, because they can accumulate credits on their ABC account. This is what we spoke about, that is anytime learning, anywhere learning, any level of learning. This is what is the key of NEP 2020. So it can facilitate even the integration of campuses by enhancing or creating student mobility within the university system. Okay, and then ABC can help to integrate skills into credit-based system, because it provides credit recognition mechanism. Then this is one more thing, that is credit expiry and renewal. Credits earned by students which are deposited in the bank account with ABC shall be valid for a particular period. Not that you have acquired, the student has acquired a credit now and comes back sometime, some 15 to 20 years later, and then wants to redeem it. So this bank account or credits which he has put in the bank account will be valid for a period. And this period will be defined by the respective regulatory authority or till it is redeemed. Also, once any credit is redeemed for the award of the mentioned academic qualification, once it is redeemed, it will be debited from the respective student academic bank account. Okay. Then this provision for on-demand assessment and on-demand examination. Okay. This is also one flexibility of choice given to the student, so that he can choose when he has to be assessed or when he has to be examined. Now, to conclude, we have seen that the CBCS is giving choice and flexibilities to the student in choosing the institution he wants to study in. He can choose to study a particular course in particular college or higher education institution or university, and study a certain other course related to it in some other university, and then collect the credits. Okay, that is what is about credit banking and choice of curriculum or courses. And we have also looked into how institutional autonomy can improve the performance of higher education institutions, and how further as teachers and faculty we will have to be have the readiness and acquire the competencies for having to take responsible decisions once autonomy is to be given, and how we have to make our institution ready for acquiring this autonomy. I think with this, I would like to just take this information which I've taken from the Sustainable Development Goals Report 2018 by the United Nations. It shows that 42% of the world population is the young generation. Okay, and this global youth, they say the unemployment rate of 13%. Okay, so this can be brought down drastically if skill development is given to this youth. And NEP speaks about the skill development, and our institutional who are going to be autonomous should concentrate on offering programs for skill development, and then make our future students or future generation for the nation being ready for certain employment. Okay, so I think with this I would like to just end my presentation for today. I think we are well within time. For 2 minutes, anybody wants to discuss anything about both these topics, that is institutional autonomy and student choice?